am grateful to be here. I always envied Charlie, first going on college campuses, which I haven't really visited since I left college in shame 35 years ago. But I love the idea of people being able to ask any question they want. And I just have spent my life giving a ton of speeches and taking relatively few questions. So I am grateful I'm the beneficiary of this. So without further ado, I just want to take questions. I can speak forever. If you ever had dinner with me, you know that. I could probably speak for 3 hours and another thing. But I would much rather hear what you think. And I should also say, by the way, my wife left for the week to visit one of our children, and I had the dogs. And so I guess I need a household staff. But anyway, I thought, we were in Maine this morning. I was like, you guys want to go to Indiana? Okay. So they came. So I hope they won't be a distraction, but they're very nice. We hunted this morning, actually. They're great dogs. So the one thing I've been asked to say is that disagreements take priority, and Turning Point will help bring you to the front of the line. Whatever that means. So without further ado, please hit me with your questions. You can't hurt my feelings. I will answer as honestly as I possibly can and as cheerfully as I can. And, feel no need to be cheerful to me, but I will be to you. So first question.
Tucker, this is awesome. Thank you for being here today.
Oh man, thank you for having me.
Big fan. Here's my question. So one of Charlie's gifts was bringing the different factions of the right together under one movement, supporting MAGA, supporting MAHA, and help to get Trump across the finish line, as well as, I know Charlie and you both worked to get JD up there, which is amazing. 48, let's go. How do we keep that without Charlie? We're already seeing the Republicans, let's battle over group chat, let's battle over foreign policy. And it's like they don't want to keep together what Charlie built.
I strongly agree with that. And it was about maybe 24 hours after he was murdered that I was obviously close to him, and I was so emotional about his death and so sad for Erica and the children that it took about a day to realize the political implications of this, which are real. They're not paramount. They're not the most important thing. The most important thing is Erica and his son and daughter. But, the country really benefited from Charlie Kirk, and benefited for that specific reason that you articulated so well, his ability to bring people together who had most things in common but not everything, that ecumenical spirit, which is really necessary. I don't have that. I mean, I'm a completely alienating person. Like, people like me or hate me. It's like, I wish I wasn't that way, but I am. Charlie wasn't, and he could hear people who had views that weren't precisely his and say, I think I know what you're saying, or I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and we agree enough that we should be together on this. And I don't know who can do that. It's very obvious to me that the Republican coalition is fracturing over foreign policy, Israel specifically. And it's such a shame. It's such a shame. I mean, I obviously have strong views on this, which I've articulated and made myself even more hated, but it's not the only thing I care about. It's the only thing its advocates care about, that's for sure, which is really a shame. But I would say on most things, the people I've battled with, Mark Levin or whatever, I agree with Mark Levin on a lot. I do. I don't know. I mean, I'm very pro-family. I'm passionately pro-life. I think he is also good. Like, it would be worth being united on those things. And I'm not passing the buck. I mean, I think a lot of us are more, including me, are more divisive or hot-headed than we need to be. Charlie had a lot of emotional self-control, which he was, 20 years younger than me, and I admired that openly, and I told him so. You have control over your own emotions. You take Proverbs seriously. Control your emotions. That's always been a struggle for me. That's a prerequisite for bringing people together, is curbing your tongue, not saying sharp things that you could say. But so I'm not passing the buck. We're all at fault. And the worst people in the world are going to benefit from this if the fracture remains. But I will say that on the foreign policy question, the advocates of neocon foreign policy literally only care about that, from what I can tell. And I would just urge them to, broaden your concerns a little bit. Yes, I understand your emotional connection. I get it. And I'm willing to make allowances for it. But, slow down a little bit. You don't have to hate people just because they don't worship Bibi or something. Like that shouldn't be the make or break issue. It's a foreign head of state. Settle down. And hopefully they will. And I do think when 7 million people take to the streets as they did last weekend, I know they were all elderly boomers and everyone's laughing at them, but that's a lot of people. And that suggests a very high level of organization and coordination. That's formidable. That's not a joke at all. And I'm not laughing at that. I think it's totally real. And those people do not share my values at all, at all. And some of them, not all, probably not most, but some of them are scary. I don't want those people in charge again. I saw what happened last time. So think big picture for a second. You know what I mean?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tucker.
Thanks.
Hey, Tucker. It's great to speak to you.
Thank you.
Great state of Indiana. Let's go Hoosiers.
Let's go.
Hoosiers.
Wait. I'm sorry. I can't let that pass. Before we endorse the Hoosiers, can you explain what a Hoosier is?
No clue.
Ah!
I'm Fort Lauderdale.
You're not alone. By the way, nobody in Indiana knows what a Hoosier is because there's no definition of it. To which I say, go Hoosiers.
So, I had a big kind of question here.
I like the big ones. Hit me, baby.
So, I kind of just don't see a lot of change between, the Biden administration and now the Trump one in foreign policy. We're still giving a shit ton of money to Israel and Ukraine. Nothing is happening. The war's not stopped. He promised it'd be done in a day, and it's, I don't know, how many months? 8 months or something like that. It's a long time. Your dad was in the CIA, and I was wondering, does our government even want war to stop? Do they want conflicts to end? It seems like we have a difference of interests where we're getting told one thing and the other is happening, and I feel like there's not enough communication between different sects of government, and I really think the deep state's controlling everything and we have no control.
Well, let me start at, obviously, you probably sense that I agree with a lot of that. Obviously, leave my father out of it. I'm going to have to kick your ass, which I could do, by the way, if you bring him up again, because he was a wonderful man, whatever, he did for a living. So I really do hate that. But leaving that aside, and don't test me, son. I hate to say I agree with a lot of I think you probably know I agree with a lot of what you've said, and it's enormously frustrating. It's shocking, actually. And I do know, I'm not shilling, I just happen to know some of the people who work in the administration who are people who agree with you strongly. I think most Trump voters agree with you. That's why they voted for Donald Trump in the first place. And, no pointless wars was not just a thing he said at one campaign stop. It was a pillar of his campaigns and of MAGA itself. I mean, what is MAGA? There's a mad scramble, particularly since Charlie's passing, to define what this is and to read some people out of the movement. You're not MAGA. Well, what is MAGA? Well, MAGA is 5 things, okay? MAGA is America first, which means Americans should put no country before America. American interests come first. That's not a crazy idea. No pointless wars, period. And by pointless, I mean wars fought on behalf of an ideology or another nation are totally unacceptable. They weaken this country. Wars fought because somebody running a country is bad. Okay, is bad. You're telling me a world leader's bad? All right. Yeah, no. It's impoverished, it's dramatically weakened this country, its social fabric, its treasury, it's killed so many Americans, and it's really weakened America's position globally. So no pointless wars. Bring back American jobs, right? Of meaningful jobs. You know, the call centers have moved to South Asia, AI's crushing the lawyers. What do Americans do for a living? Like, think deeply about that and work to make work a reality for people. I mean, you all are, I assume, still in college. Wait till you graduate. You know, I have a child who just graduated college. Once a week, I'm like, how many of your friends, and these are all like smart, pretty affluent, kind of connected, you know, cute girls. How many of your friends have jobs in New York City? 4 out of 10. You know, that's a disaster, actually. And someone needs to be thinking about that deeply, and the promise of MAGA was that somebody would. And then, of course, immigration. Like, you have to control who comes in and out of your country, or else you're not a country. And I know that it's considered highly controversial to say that the population of America is being replaced by people from other countries, but it's not controversial. It's a mathematical fact, and the numbers are taken by the U.S. Census, and that's just true. Now, some people are for it. I'm against it. I'm from here. I'm against that. I'm against replacing the current population. And it's happening in this country. It's completely happening in Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, and the UK. It's happening to the English-speaking world. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I'm totally opposed, and so is everyone who voted for Donald Trump. That's not a conspiracy theory. It's a mathematical reality. And stop it now. And the fifth pillar of MAGA, just to be totally clear, is free speech, because it's our birthright as Americans. And so when we talk about cancel culture or the woke or against the, what does that even mean? It means people who are attempting to abridge my ability to speak freely about what I actually believe. That's what that is. It's an attack on free speech. And by the way, the second Trump gets elected, all these people show up who I've never heard of, who are MAGA people. I can't hear you. Can you scream louder? I love the solidarity fist. And
they're saying Tep is Taos.
I couldn't hear what she said, but this is why I'm such an unpleasant person that brings it out of me, and I'm going to really try to be a nice person to screechy. Oh, I could hear that. Anyway, you know, there's all of a sudden this attempt to limit what people can say in public, and it's by people who claim to be MAGA. It's like insane. And I'm really shocked by it. So again, those are the 5 pillars of MAGA. To be clear, I didn't make them up. Donald Trump articulated them consistently for 10 years, a full decade. He's dominated American politics for 10 years on the basis of those 5 ideas. And a central one of those 5, the 5 pillars of Donald Trump, is no pointless wars. He ran on it. He talked about it extensively. He explained why he thought it, including in interviews with me. And, you know, I will give allowances that the world is super complicated and conflicts are very hard to end. Easy to start, hard to end, which is why you don't enter into them lightly. It's like marriage. Pretty easy to get married, go to Vegas, hard to get divorced. And that is true for wars. And so I will allow that because I'm familiar with some of the details. It's hard, but it's not that hard. And it's not as hard as some people pretend it is. And you know who the bad actors are. Zelensky's a bad actor. Okay, he's a dictator. He's not the elected president of Ukraine. And he is set about methodically trying to eliminate traditional Christianity from Ukraine. How about no? I'm not sending you money for that. I'm a Christian. No. And so, again, there's a lot going on, but I think anybody who begins negotiations or attempts to influence negotiations between Russia and Ukraine who takes Zelensky seriously is making a mistake and probably prolonging a war that is basically genocidal for Ukraine. I feel sorry for the Ukrainians. There will be no Ukraine. But Zelensky allowed a law to go through the lawmaking body of Ukraine that legalized the sale of land in Ukraine to foreigners. That's a fact. And now the male population of Ukraine has been so completely decimated. Of course, they lie about the numbers, but hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian men have died. That's like, oh, we're going to need to fill Ukraine with foreigners just because we have no labor force. So ask yourself, in a generation, will Ukraine be Ukrainian? Or will it be like Canada, New Zealand, Australia, the UK, and the United States? Will it have turned over in population? Will it be a different country? And the answer is probably. And there's nothing worse than that, actually. There's nothing worse than that, to take an ancient indigenous population and just eliminate them. And that's exactly what they're doing. And no one's saying that, and Zelensky is leading it. So, hard no to him. And then on the Middle Eastern stuff, look, we have a lot of leverage, and you sound informed, I'm not going to continue, but I mean, we pay for the whole thing. So we're not going to pay for this anymore, okay? So it's like if my kids are acting in some outrageous way, you can be like, don't do drugs or study hard in school. But ultimately, you will find out when you become a parent, which I hope is soon, have kids young, you will find out that your real leverage is economic. You're paying for this crap. And so if it really comes down to it and your kid is just wasting his time in college, you could go nuclear and say, I'm not paying for it. Get a job in the kitchen. What? Kids are every bit as entitled as Netanyahu. You know, what? Work for it? But you could do that. And sometimes you have to do that. And we've reached the point where I think we have to do it because the cost to the United States is profound. So yes, I'm agitated on those two questions. I share your frustration, and you don't want to, my father aside, you don't want to live in a country controlled by people whose names you don't know. They work for agencies whose funding is secret. Like, if you actually knew the influence of a couple or more than a couple of federal agencies, some of which you probably have never heard of, on American politics and global affairs, you'd be even more freaked out than you are. So, yes, I'm upset about it, very. Thank you for pissing me off more.
Can I leave a final remark?
Yeah, of course.
This is something like not political, but I think you like talking about it. Are aliens a religious or extraterrestrial subject?
They're spiritual entities.
They're spiritual beings.
Is my view, yes. Okay. And I don't think they're from another planet. I don't think there's any evidence of that. Or perhaps they are, but they've been resident here for recorded history, and there's every reason to believe for eternity. And this is my belief, and I think there's a lot there. There's also a lot of lying about it and official disinformation designed to confuse people or make you look ridiculous. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that you read about that subject that was put there in order to get you off the trail. And I'm not guessing at this. Some of it's been declassified. There's been a persistent 75-year effort by the United States government to confuse the population about what these things are that we can see in the sky. And many people have seen. But after looking into it, pretty extensively for a number of years, off camera, my conclusion is that they are the spiritual entities that are described, in the Old Testament, in Ezekiel, but also, I would say, in the sacred texts of all kinds of religions around the world. This is not, basically, I'll stop at this, but our culture is anomalous in the sense that we exclude the possibility of a spiritual realm. And that's only been true in the United States since August of 1945 when we dropped the atom bomb, which was the turning point in history, in my opinion. And it was the beginning of the total destruction of the West, which unfortunately we're witnessing now. And that destruction began with, the same lie that begins all destruction, which is, I am God. Hubris is the end, always. It was the point of the Tower of Babel. It's the end of every leader. Every leader who's like, I'm very powerful, I have godlike powers, that leader will be destroyed. And a nation that believes that will be destroyed. And the atom bomb gave us the very false sense, that we had absolute power, dominion over nature and mankind itself. And we started making a lot of really bad decisions. And one of the results of that was faith died in the United States. It's resurging now, thank God, literally. But from my whole childhood, I was born in 1969, the year that we walked on the moon. And just kidding, sort of, maybe. I don't no idea. I'm not going to find out. I'm not going to find out. I've got enough problems. I don't want to know. But anyway, the point is, I was born that year, and for my entire life up until recently, no one I knew in my world, which is coastal, affluent, well-educated, not that I'm well-educated, but everyone else around me is, no one ever talked about God at dinner. That was the spiritual realm was kind of a joke that is kind of a trailer park belief or who knows what. They're handling snakes. They make TV shows about no one believed that. And when you don't believe that, you kind of miss everything because it is real, whether you want it to be or not. That's literally real. That's absolutely real. It's as real as this podium. And so to someone living even 100 years ago, the idea that these are, of course, angels, demons, they're manifestations of the spiritual battle ongoing since the beginning of time. That would have been obvious. And instead we're like, maybe they flew in rocket ships from Mars. Do we have a telescope powerful enough to detect that? Oh, shut up. You're missing the obvious, dude. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I had another dog at one point if you have my dog in the crowd, oh, that way? Cool.
Hi.
Hey!
You're going to have to forgive me. I had kind of a cold over the weekend, so I'm losing my voice.
That's okay.
But I just kind of wanted to ask, I want more insight on this because I think especially in the age of social media, we're hearing a lot of buzzwords. I think a few examples of that would be words like woke or phrases like owning the libs or whatever. You already kind of touched on what your definition of woke is, but I kind of just want to hear more about that and like how is that attacking your freedom of speech? Who are the people that are like a part of this movement that's attacking your freedom of speech? I feel like we hear woke so much, especially from conservatives. I'm personally not one, but we never really hear like what it means. So
well, bless you for asking that question. And just in general, I think that we should demand a definition of terms. Like if you're being attacked for being something, and if you're being punished, especially for being something, it's fair to ask, what do you mean by that thing? Right? You're racist, you're anti-Semitic, okay, well, what is that? Why don't you define it for me? And woke would definitely be in that category. I think thank you for asking that. I can give you the definition that I have in my mind. I think woke has two components. At its core, woke is an attempt by the powerful to make the less powerful shut up. All efforts to stifle speech come from the powerful, not the powerless. What's so interesting about this moment that we live in, this has been true my whole life really, but it's a new innovation in world history where the powerful use the powerless as a pretext to crush everyone else. So what they do...
More about
yes, ma'am.
Well, when you say the powerful and the powerless, generally we associate wokeness, like you guys say it's like more LGBTQ agenda or more diversity of races. How is that the more powerful? Because those are historically oppressed groups of people.
Right. Well, that may or may not be true depending, it's probably true in some ways, untrue in others. Certainly not true now.
How is that not true now?
Well, simply because if you were to, just for example, apply to Stanford Law School, which I would not recommend, but if you were to write an essay about how, growing up queer in a Midwestern farm town...
I've grown up queer in a Midwestern farm.
You should have applied to Stanford Law School. You probably would have gotten in. I'm glad you didn't. But here's what I'm saying. Leaving aside that, and I'm not... By the way, I would never discount the fact that there are people who have been victims of bias, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm merely saying that big picture, the efforts to make other people be quiet on behalf of this or that marginalized group are 100% paid for and encouraged by the richest people in our society. So if you look for, and I'll be very specific in the case of and I can never do the acronym fully, but for the gay lobby in Washington, is run out of a building that was right across from my office for many years called the Human Rights Campaign, which is the largest gay lobby in Washington. Who pays for that? Where does that money come from? And they're the ones who popularize the idea that people can change their sex if they want to, transgenderism, which at the time was like a pretty boutique idea. There had always been transvestites, always in every society, including ours. But the idea that this was a category that needed federal protection and that people were born this way in the wrong body. That was a brand new idea, and I was there for that because I'm 56.
Wait, but correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't the Human Rights Campaign, isn't that a nonprofit organization? So isn't it funded by, or am I wrong about that?
I think it is a nonprofit, and what's interesting, and this is a whole...
We'll fundraise for the Human Rights Campaign.
Sure, but you're absolutely right. It is, like most lobbies in the United States, I would say all of them actually are not federally funded, they're nonprofits. And they're among the most powerful institutions. They may be the most powerful institutions in our country. Abroad, they're called NGOs, non-governmental organizations. But in the United States, they operate as what we call nonprofits under 501c3 tax law, and that means they pay no taxes. And so they become enormously rich. Now, if I were in charge, never going to be, unfortunately, I would eliminate all tax exemption for everybody, for churches, the Human Rights Campaign. Everyone pays the same tax because we're all Americans. That would be my view. I think it's no, but that's a sidebar. I would just say, if you look, and I would encourage you to do this, to look into who funds that. And by the way, the Heritage Foundation on the right, and like all these nonprofits, it's not just the Human Rights Campaign. The people who fund them are not the least powerful. They're not funded by some, trans performer, in the Castro district of San Francisco. They're funded by billionaires, all of them. BLM, the BLM riots were funded by Apple and Facebook. All the biggest actors in corporate America fund these organizations, which have the effect of getting people fired from their jobs or shamed into silence. But also, Tucker, you can
make the argument that Elon Musk, he's one of the most powerful people in the world. He's a billionaire, billions and billions of dollars, and he put all his money into the Trump campaign.
Well, I wouldn't make that case. I would state it as fact. That's true.
Yeah, it's the facts.
Well, I know.
I know, you're saying that. Listen. You're saying that wokeism, and it's the most powerful people suppressing the lesser powerful. There's cases where it's people that you typically agree with, where it's powerful people suppressing the lesser powerful.
That may be absolutely true. I like Elon. I'm not endorsing everything he does.
But that's you endorsing a more powerful individual. Why are you only against the more powerful when it's supporting things like human rights and BLM, but you're for it when it's supporting Donald Trump?
Well, I don't know that I am. I mean, I think we may have a failure of, as usual, of me to explain myself fully. So I think you're speaking about two different categories. The first category was free speech and who's funding the efforts to suppress it. And I would say free speech benefits, by definition, the powerless. So like if you don't have a lot of money and clearly, your vote isn't going to turn an election, what do you have? You have your conscience, you have your voice. So traditionally, and this is why it's enshrined in the Bill of Rights, the freedom of speech is the weapon of the powerless. It's all they have is their voice. That's it. Okay? And their ability to assemble and petition and make noise and all that, right? This is what liberals used to say all the time, and I always agreed with them. And you will find in every society at every time the people who are against the exercise of free speech are the powerful. You find this in, the potentates of the Middle East. Who's against free speech in Saudi? Well, the king, obviously. In every country that's the case, and it's true in ours. So that's just a point I would make. And it's true for wokeism, which was a lot of things. It was identity politics. But really, what was the point of it? It was identifying this group. This group has no power, therefore you're not allowed to criticize them, say the richest people in America who really don't want to hear an analysis of their leadership. That's what it's actually about. So that's the first point. You're making a second point, which I'm not sure I disagree with, which is that people who have billions of dollars have undue influence over our society. Amen, sister, I would say. I do agree with that.
Point, though. Like, what I'm trying to say is that you're saying that wokeism is this more powerful, suppressing the less powerful. However, I see that more in our current administration. Donald Trump is incredibly rich. He had Elon Musk, who's incredibly rich. And you're supporting the First Amendment and freedom to assemble and freedom to petition. You're saying that's a good thing. That happened this weekend with the No Kings protest. And you're here, this very rich organization, you're here actively criticizing those who went to that protest.
I did? I actually
your
don't think
organization, not you specifically.
No. What I said was,
I'm not saying what you said. I'm saying what the previous speaker said.
Okay,
the previous comedian made fun of the people who
but
the No Kings.
I do think, and this is news to liberals, I do think making fun of people is within bounds.
I'm not saying it's
and
not.
I enjoy it. And so I will take where you're going seriously, and
Can you let me finish where I was?
I can't. No, I'm going to interrupt you. No,
But
I'm kidding. Of course you could finish. I'm totally kidding.
Thank you. What I'm saying is, if you support that First Amendment right so much, and you support the idea that the lesser powerful shouldn't be suppressed by the more powerful, I would think that you would be against the President of the United States going on his social media and posting AI videos of him dropping shit on the protesters as he's the more powerful and they're the lesser powerful.
So we may have a definition of terms problem here. So you can say, I think it's ugly that the President of the United States is posting naughty videos on his X account or whatever. Okay, fine. What I'm defending is the sacred God-given right of every person to say what he believes. That's called free speech. That's what's enshrined in our First Amendment. If you can name any example of the administration abridging that, I will agree with you 100%. I believe in that independent of party. I'm not particularly partisan, actually. I kind of hate the Republican Party, just being honest. I'm not going to vote for the Democratic Party because I think they're evil. So it puts me in a tough spot, but I'm not partisan in the slightest. I never have been. So if you can name an example of anybody preventing or trying to prevent someone else from saying what he thinks is true, speaking his conscience, I will agree with you. But I don't think that you've thought deeply enough about the difference between making fun of someone and preventing him from speaking. There's a meaningful difference.
I wasn't saying that was an example of presenting the...
No, you said that because Trump posted a naughty cartoon on Twitter, he's against the First Amendment. I'm like, no,
He's against the protests, which is an example of practicing the First Amendment.
No, you can certainly make fun of a protest without preventing the protest from happening.
That's an unacceptable way for the president to be acting, though, because he is the president of the United States. He can change people's course of action.
Okay, but can I wait? May I say one thing? Again, we're arguing past each other, and I hope I end with this, which is to say, you can make the case that he shouldn't have done that because it's unbecoming or whatever. Fair, fine, we can debate it. But I don't think that you're making the case he was abridging anyone's First Amendment. Criticizing, and this is part of the derangement of the left, that criticizing somebody is the same as committing violence against them or preventing them from speaking. That is not true. Trying to get someone fired from his job, I've been on the receiving end of that like about 100 times. Well, I guess I did get fired in the end. Sorry, I totally forgot. I would argue that's like kind of a meaningful attempt to stifle speech. But I just see a big difference. But if you don't, I don't know how to convince
there's
you.
other examples of him stifling free speech.
All right, I think your questions are in good faith. I think you're trying to understand what I'm saying. I'm definitely trying to understand what you're saying. But I'm going to ask to go to the next questioner just because we've gone back and forth quite a bit. Thank you.
Oh my God. All right, hi Tucker. This is kind of surreal because I remember watching you in 2004 on CNN.
What?
Fire with Paul Begala when John.
I never did that. That's AI, man. I never.
CNN. There was a lot of people don't know you were on MSNBC.
I never worked at CNN.
On Crossfire? Are you like just straight? Really? Are you denying that right now? For real?
Have you heard of AI, dude?
Oh my God. Oh, he's doing it. That's pretty good.
I'm totally kidding.
See, I did.
I've done a lot of shameful things. I'm not going to pretend.
I have one thing in common with you. I'm also long-winded and have a hard time, wrapping up my thoughts. But I don't have your
Find a patient wife. That's my advice.
I don't have your rhetorical skills, so you'll definitely, throw a lot of shit my way that I won't be able to counter. But I wonder, for you, being at CNN, being at Fox, and you say, you're all against disinformation, but you were, up there with Sean Hannity just repeating talking points, on Fox News that Rupert Murdoch and Roger Ailes were just telling you to say. That got the Tea Party started. You can't tell me that you weren't conscious that you were spreading disinformation. In 2020,
wait, hold on. You've already.
I had an example.
No. I'm going to need. First of all, I never got talking points from Ailes or.
Okay. Well, I'm sure they didn't directly give them to you. Obviously.
Okay. Well, I worked there for 15 years, so if you're interested in what it was like, I'm happy to tell you as honestly as I can.
It's just,
but let me just ask what disinformation means.
I think disinformation can come across in a lot of.
No, but what is it?
Ways.
What is it?
It is purposefully trying to mislead people.
So it's lying.
It can be, yeah. I mean, that's an example.
Let's just call it lying.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be lying. Just that's a lie.
Okay, so we just cut 3 syllables off the word. That's a win.
Okay.
That's a Doge move. We went from disinformation to lying.
All right.
Yeah.
So do you not feel like you've been part of contributing to the rise of essentially just people gaslighting each other and just like what are your
What's gaslighting?
What are your personal convictions? Like, do you sometimes forget what you actually believe versus like what you thought?
How old are you, son?
Too old. I'm old. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
I remember. I've seen you for a lot. Like the text.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Like when you texted.
Okay,
well, I can't wait for Trump to. I hate him with passion. Like with a passion. Like you had those came out in court, and that's what you thought. But at the same time, you were actively supporting Trump and the whole 2020 election situation. So that's disinformation right there.
Okay, so you're giving me a lecture about what I think. And I do think...
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I promised in the spirit of Charlie I would not use profanity from the stage.
It's okay, I'm French. You can shit on me all you want, dude.
Okay. It's called merde, son. Okay, I would... rather than tell me what I think or what my experience was, I think it's... And I've done that to a lot of people. I've told people what they think. So I've committed that sin. So I'm familiar with it. I'm not judging you, but I'm just giving you advice. It's more evocative, it's more productive to ask what people think.
That's what I'm trying to ask.
And so you're saying you participated, I think you're saying, in a lot of things that were false and bad for the country. And what do you really think?
Yeah.
So I would answer your
thought process.
I would answer your second question first. I really try to be as transparent as I possibly can. I think you just scoffed in the microphone.
I mean, there was text that came out in court finally.
Would you like to know what that was? Because I'll tell you.
I'm sure everyone would love to know. Yeah, when the Dominion lawsuit.
You're one of the most annoying people I've ever dealt with. This is why I don't come to college. But hold on. I'm gonna no. Hold on. I'm gonna apologize. I just want to apologize for saying that. Okay, so
that's such an honor.
I know. My views are like on the internet, and I don't work for anybody but me. I'm in business with my college roommate. I have no incentive to ever lie at all, and I really try not to. I supported the Iraq War pretty vehemently. I supported the nomination of a Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett. That was a huge mistake. Sorry. I think it's not what I thought she was. I support John Roberts. I support, what's the list of dumb things I've supported in my life is very long. I think I've learned something from those mistakes. I'm happy to admit how dumb they were. I've spent the last 22 years trying to atone for my support for the Iraq War.
I appreciate that. And
hold on, I'm not. Okay, now you're annoying me again.
Oh my God.
Not here for your affirmation. So I would say, as to the text specifically, you want to actually know? I mean, are you even willing to hear it? I'll tell you exactly what that was. Those were between me and a producer of mine who I really love, who I still am close to. And that was it was in January after the election, and Trump was saying, they stole it from me. And I called the White House and I said, I'm totally willing to believe that. I mean, Zuckerberg puts, $400 million into the mechanics of elections. I don't think he's doing that because he believes in good government. What is this? It's clearly their stuff. And I say to the White House, someone specifically at the White House, give me examples. And he says, I have got a great example for you. I've got 7 or 8 dead people who voted. And the beauty of that claim was it's provable because they're death certificates. And we've got the death certificates and we've got the obits, and they voted, and they're on the voter rolls. We know they voted. Well, talk about slam dunk. I'm not repeating anything I can't prove. I don't trust any campaign, period. I never have, on either side. I just don't trust campaign consultants. They're disgusting. I still think that. But this seemed like a verifiable hit. So I go out there and I say, there's a lot of talk, and you can pull up the tape. There's a lot of talk about, election theft. We're working on it. And I'm working in Fox News, so there's a lot of, let's find out what happened. But we know that 7 or 10 dead people voted, and here are their names. Miss Wanda Johnson of Sioux City, Iowa, and, Jack Klein of Corpus Christi, Texas, and I would go through the whole name, and we'll put the obits up. Well, within 25 minutes, a couple of the dead people call CNN to say, we're not dead. And CNN runs this whole thing exposing that I have just like made this colossal error on the air. There's nothing I hate more than being wrong and humiliated like that, because like I have a staff, we should get this right. And I didn't get it right because it's so easy to check whether or not someone has died that I didn't check. And I was enraged. And I was just enraged by the whole thing. And my position was, at the time, if you're going to claim it was stolen, prove it to me. I'm an adult man. I'm not taking anybody's word for anything.
How come you weren't saying these things during, like, on Fox News?
I did the next day.
And I'm not here to just try to argue with you. Like, I really do think this country's going through some, like, deeply troubling times.
Wait, what do you mean argue with me? You just said, wait, stop. You just, wait, hold on. You said, why didn't you say these things? And I said, I did the next day on the air, live on Fox News. And you're like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. No,
but you didn't though. Like
check the tape, dude.
Emphasis of your show, the emphasis.
What are you talking about? I went immediately on the.
Cop out. Okay, fine.
What do you mean it's a cop out? I was completely wrong. I blamed the Trump campaign for being wrong when it was partly my fault for taking their word for it, which I shouldn't have done. And the guy who gave me that information, I just ran into. I'm still mad at him. He's still around.
It's just so you don't take any ownership for like divisive.
What do you mean any ownership?
Like you had the #1 rated show in America.
What specifically are you talking about?
You had the #1 rated cable.
I'm aware of that. I hosted it.
Yeah, I know. So you had. I know. So the amount of influence that you carried.
So you don't agree. Look, you don't agree with my views.
No, that's not what I'm getting at. Tucker,
okay, so you're saying my views are insincere?
No, we disagree. Yes, I truly doubt your sincerity, and I think at this point in your career,
then that's your problem.
I'm trying to understand it because it makes no sense. Like you're worth $50 million.
I'm not worth $50 million.
30 to 50.
Get off the fucking internet, son. Don't stop believing that stuff.
Oh.
$50 million.
Go back to cable news.
Sorry.
No, but I'm just look. Okay,
you're too annoying. You're too annoying. So I like the last chick who like disagreed with me, and then we could have like a normal conversation.
All right.
But you're like telling me you're worth $50 million. What? Stop.
Okay, you got real defensive there. I just threw out a number that's like a lot of money. Jesus Christ, calm down.
Don't use that phrase.
You're worth.
We're done.
Look.
Just stop.
Can I say one?
No, you can't. Not after you say that. Leave.
All right.
Hi, we had a question.
I'm sorry. I'm such a jerk. I promise I'm going to try not to do that again.
Okay. We wanted to ask that for a platform that advocates for limited government and personal freedoms, how do you justify the imposition of Christian values and beliefs onto a secular nation that was founded on the separation of church and state?
Well, I guess I don't see a lot of imposition of Christian values. I wish we had a lot more. The country was founded on Christian values.
You wish that we had laws?
I'm sorry?
You wish that our country had laws based on Christianity that would...
All of our laws are based on Christianity. All of them.
And do you think that's a good thing?
Well, it's the essential thing. It's why we're America. All of our laws are based on Christianity. Not sectarian Christianity, not Protestant Christianity, Catholic Christianity, Orthodox Christianity.
Secular country with...
It's not actually a secular country. Have you looked at the dollar bill? No, it's not a secular country. Our founding documents have God all over them. In fact, that's the point of our founding documents. I don't know if you've read them. You should.
Do you not believe in the separation of church and state?
Once again, and this is why I do worry about college, because the thought process does seem less rigorous than it ought to be. I'm not arguing against separation of church and state.
It seems like you are. It seems like you want Christian laws on a Christian...
All of our laws are Christian laws. All of them. All of them. There's not one law in this country, in our criminal code, that's not based on a Christian understanding of justice. Let me explain what that is. And I think you'll be glad that you live in a country based on the Christian precept of justice. And here's the difference between East and West, Christian and non-Christian. And Christianity is the only religion that believes that each individual will be judged alone by God. We do not do in Christianity or in the United States, which is based on the Christian understanding of justice, group punishment. Period. You can't punish someone's children for the sins of his parents. We don't punish entire populations. We don't kill civilians because we have a Christian understanding of what justice is. We do not do group punishment. Period. Every other country on earth outside of Western Europe and the Anglosphere does. You are all through Asia, all through the Middle East. In Russia, traditionally, if the parent does something wrong, the entire family is punished. But not in the United States. Period. Why? Because Christianity, only Christianity, doesn't believe that. It doesn't believe in blood guilt. And I don't know any other religion that rejects blood guilt with the vehemence that Christianity does. So yes, our laws are based on Christianity. You don't have to believe in Jesus to live here. I don't think you should have to believe in Jesus to live here. If that's what you're worried about, I don't think that. I would never advocate for that. But the Christian understanding of what justice is the thing that makes America a country worth living in. Get rid of that, and it's a hellscape. It's Rwanda. It's the Middle East. It's Asia. You don't want that.
How can you say that you believe in the separation of church and state if you're advocating for a people that is not homogeneously Christian to be following Christian laws?
I guess what I said was our understanding of justice, which is reflected and I hope remains reflected in our legal code, derives from the Christian understanding of justice, which is far superior to any other religion's perception, understanding of justice. And that's one of the reasons that people who are not Christian move here, because they agree that collective punishment is immoral. It's totally immoral. It's why what's happening in Gaza is disgusting. It's why what's happening around the world is disgusting, because a whole group is identified as guilty, and Christians do not believe that is possible. Groups can't be guilty. They can't be saved collectively. Every person stands alone before God and is judged on his behavior and his belief. Period. And our legal code reflects that. So you can't fire the kids of someone who gets arrested for something, okay? You don't have to be Christian to think that's a good thing. That's what human rights are. Where do you think human rights come from? Christianity. Why was slavery abolished? Christianity. Why?
Slavery was perpetuated by people making arguments from the Bible.
Well, for sure. Lots of bad things have been perpetuated by people making arguments from the Bible. But in the end, it was eliminated because Great Britain eliminated it on Christian grounds. And Great Britain, not any other country. And lots of other countries were deeply involved in the slave trade, as you know. But one Anglo-English-speaking Christian country with a head of state who was also the head of the church, it didn't have separation of church and state, Great Britain eliminated slavery on Christian grounds, and those grounds were really simple. Each person is created by God and his rights are inalienable because they're delivered not by the state but by God. And that is reflected in our Bill of Rights. And you don't want to live in a country that doesn't have that. And you guys are so brainwashed.
Church and state. What is that then?
Separation of church and state is a concept that I strongly support. And it means that unlike traditional Western countries, every country in Europe, for example, the church is not part of the state. So the head of state in all European countries, Scandinavia, all the way east, the head of the country was also the head of the church. And the church got government funding, tax dollars went to the church, the schools are run by the church. This is true in my ancestors' native countries, Sweden and Great Britain. It was true in every European country. And the people who founded this country, who were 100% Protestant Europeans, 100%, they grew up under that. And they're like, we're not going to do that. In this country, you have the freedom to worship any God you want. And that was unique at the time. It is still unique, actually. Germany banned Scientology. I'm not a Scientologist, obviously, but I don't think you should ban a religion. I don't think a government's allowed to do that. And in my country, the government can't do that because that right to worship any God you want is enshrined in our Constitution because the people who wrote it were Christians. Duh. Look, obviously, you're against. I mean, we probably agree on a lot, actually. I don't think the government should be funding churches. It totally corrupts the churches. And by the way, I know from watching really closely that when preachers get too close to politicians, they become corrupt. It's disgusting. It's an offense against God. I don't like it. I don't spend any time with those people. I actually deeply dislike them. And by the way, for the record, Jesus disliked people like that too. He spent the entire New Testament yelling at them. So I don't want just speaking for myself as a Christian, I don't want my leaders of my specific church sucking up to politicians or taking their cues from any temporal authority, period, ever. So I'm totally for separation of church and state. But you can't separate out the Christian understanding of justice from the creation, or the Christian understanding of the rights of man, of people, human rights we call them now. Where do those come from? They don't come from Shintoism, they come from Christianity alone. And I'm sorry nobody told you that.
If we have this country that is so diverse religiously...
Yep, we do.
Yes, how do you justify to those people who are not Christian when you're trying to back policy based on, using the Bible as justification or using Christianity as a justification for things that are moral, for things that are not the same that everyone believes in?
Well, you've got a broader problem here, and I will take your question seriously because I think it's a serious question. You have a problem in any country where there's no working majority of people who share something in common. And we have that now because of immigration. And if there's anything that will destroy the country, it's that. You need to have a shared sense of something. It can't just be, we love the gays, that's enough. It's not enough. That's not enough, whether you love the gays or not. That's not like a reason for a country to hold together.
You think the reason should be that the majority of the country will be Christian in your ideal America?
I can tell what classes you attend here in college.
Tell me.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. A lot of soft liberal arts classes I can tell, but I would say, no, I'm not saying that. I don't think there should ever be a religious test for office, for example. But I think if we can't agree as a nation that collective punishment is immoral, whether we believe in Jesus or not, whether we're Christians or not, if we can't agree on that, and that really is the difference between the United States and the rest of the world. People believe in collective punishment. They're like, your family, your tribe, your race, they're all guilty. And we reject that out of hand because this country was founded by Christians who understood the world in Christian terms. And if we can't agree that that's a good thing, then we're going to have a civil war. And I know what side I'm going to be on. I'm going to be on the side that opposes collective punishment. That is so immoral. Are you for collective punishment?
I'm not for collective punishment.
Okay.
I'm just against people using religion to defend their political views, when religion should not be a part of the political process.
Okay, well, I kind of agree. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. I think maybe we're talking past each other. If someone comes out and, is a secular leader of your state and says everyone has to believe what I believe, I'm totally opposed to that. Even if I agree with the sentiment, even if it's like a Protestant Christian like I am.
I think that's a lot of what's happening in this country with people using religion to justify their stance against abortion, against LGBTQ rights, against trans rights. People are using religion.
May I just suggest something? No, of course I'm very familiar with your argument, but I've never seen religious fanaticism like I see among the abortion enthusiasts. I mean, from my perspective, it's so obviously a child sacrifice right. There's no point at all. There's no, the number of unintended pregnancies in an age of universally available free birth control is probably pretty low. And they happen, okay, but the enthusiasm, the wicked, gleeful enthusiasm that people have for...
Enthusiastic.
Shout your abortion? I think there's some enthusiasm, yeah. Putting an abortion truck outside the Democratic Convention, there's a lot of enthusiasm for it. And to make that the one thing you'll never bend on, because I kind of believe the my body, my choice thing. I really thought that's what it was about, bodily autonomy. And then...
That's what it's about.
Really? So where were you on the COVID vax? It's not about that. It's not about that. And what it's about is killing. It's about killing and the thrill that people derive from killing another human being and the power they feel when they kill. And that's what people love.
That's a real argument that you're making.
No, it's not an argument, it's a reality. It's a reality. I've seen it. And I've seen it when people plan wars. I've actually seen that happen. And I've seen it when people in power like show videos of them killing people with drones or whatever, and they get so high from it. Like there's no greater thrill than extinguishing life because that makes you God. And I think that's the most evil thing there is, and one of the greatest temptations that people have is to kill because it makes them feel powerful. And we are so disconnected from the basic realities of the world. We're so like socialized that we don't see that the elements are never changing. Like killing makes people feel powerful. Killing your own child makes you feel like I'm in charge.
I would argue that that is why we invest so heavily in our military in this country.
I agree. I totally agree with that. I completely agree with that. I think $1 trillion is I'm like, what is that? Okay. How many wars have we won in the last 80 years? I'm waiting. I'm thinking around 0. So yeah, no, I totally agree with you. But abortion is murder, obviously, and everyone knows that. And people are so into it because it's the same ritual that every civilization ever been studied has engaged in, which is human sacrifice. Obviously, why did the Incas, and it wasn't just the Incas, it was my ancestors, the Vikings, all of them killed people in order to appease the gods and give themselves more power.
Abortion isn't ritualistic.
Are you joking? They had an abortion truck outside the Democratic Convention. Well, you're here, maybe you could get an abortion. No, it's the most crazed level of fanaticism I've ever seen. Like when I was a kid, they would say, well, you know, there's probably some 12-year-old farm worker child who got raped and she's pregnant. And like, would you say to her she has to carry the baby? And I'd be like, oh, that's so sad. I can't, It makes me really sad. And like, I don't think she should have an abortion, but I get it. Now it's just like, no, abortion is the only right you have. It's all you have. You don't have the right to keep you from jabbing a needle in your arm with some unknown poison made by Pfizer. You don't have that right. You don't have the right to say what you really think. The only right you have is to murder your own kids? That's dark, dude. Listen to yourself. That's the saddest thing that could ever happen. Killing your children? The only thing in life, and I'm telling you this as a young person with the greatest sincerity, I mean this as a father of 4, the only thing that matters is not your stupid job at Citibank. Trust me, it doesn't matter. All that matters is having children, and your children are all that will matter to you. I don't care what you say. I've lived it. I know that's true. And so anyone who's like, oh, just kill your children. You know, I feel like a lot of the problems, I'm sorry, Brookie, to upset you. Sorry. It's my dog. I don't yell at home. But no, I think it's just grotesque. It's shocking that this happens. And everyone's like, sorry. There's nothing more entitled than a female Springer Spaniel. Sorry. Anyway, it's the saddest thing. And to hear people like, I know 1 million people have had abortions. I don't know one who's happy about it, you know, and they're really sad about it. And it's awful.
Because it's not something that people take joy in. It's something that people do out of necessity.
No,
I think you're out of touch if you think it's a ritualistic thing.
Of course it's a ritual. How many abortions are there in this country every year?
Yes, and it's a matter of human rights, as you said. And it's a matter...
There's no human right to kill people, dude. Sorry. In fact, killing people is the enemy of human rights. The human right is to live.
Not a person.
It's not a person. Okay, it's not a person. But everybody knows it is. It's just so dumb. It's not a person. It's like they won't. Why don't we show a video of an abortion? And let's see if you can sit through it. And you would feel sick to your stomach. Yeah, well, okay, maybe you liked it.
I grew up in a church that thought it would be...
No, I don't. I'm sorry I said that. No, I'm sorry. No one wants to talk about the details, ever. And the most horrific things in life, including a lot that happens in war, including transgender surgeries, definitely including abortion, it's all couched in abstract ideological terms which are designed to prevent you from facing what's actually happening. A human being is being beheaded with a knife inside a woman. And if that beheading didn't take place, that would be a person, a human being, who maybe would go on to lead some screwed up life, maybe wouldn't, but it's not up to us. We don't get to kill people simply because they're in the way, period. And if you can kill children who are in the way, you can kill the elderly who are in the way, and in the end they'll be killing us who are in the way. You can't do that.
How we doing, Tucker?
Sorry, I promised myself I would be more like Charlie Kirk today.
All right.
I've failed.
All right, my name is Mitchell. I'm a poli-sci student here right at IU. I'll give you a softball. I know these have been a little loaded.
I don't care. I don't care. I yelled at that poor kid. Sorry.
So
French kid, wherever you are.
It's no secret that today Donald Trump is facing approval ratings that are at a record low. And I'm curious on your thoughts on how the Republican Party is going to grow after Donald Trump.
I mean, it's a great question. I don't, of course, I don't know the answer. it's the real answer. But I think that a party that sticks to, I mean, look, the whole appeal of Trump was that he was he was totally against the Republican Party as constituted, which was disgusting and corrupt and existing only for its own benefit and not actually serving its voters, lying to its voters, particularly its pro-life voters. I'm one of them, so I notice this. No, we're going to end abortion. No, you're not. You're for abortion. They're liars. And Trump knew that. And they're running around telling us that the war on terror was a good thing. How was it a good thing exactly? We got TSA? Shut up. And Trump shows up in 2016 and just calls BS on the whole party. He ran against the Republican Party. And that was really popular. And he got, especially the second time, and he got all kinds of people who would never vote for a Republican voted for Trump. I mean, it's in the numbers. And so my view has been that part of it is Trump's amazing personality, magnetic personality, hilariousness, wildness, ability to draw attention. That's part of it. But part of it was the ideas, the 5 pillars of MAGA that I said, which are broadly popular. You're not going to find many people who are like, no, we should have open borders, or no, let's outsource all of our jobs to Bangladesh, or you know what I mean? Most people think that's normal, those ideas. So, if the party runs on those, I think it can be a dominant party. But the party doesn't want to. They hate those ideas.
I would say if I were to be a single issue voter on anything, it would currently be the Epstein files and everything that's going on. I'm curious.
I get it, too.
As the other guy in the glasses was talking previously about your comments about Trump, I'm just curious, how do you see Trump gathering this huge populace and moving forward when he has such these huge allegations against him, where in many people's eyes they believe it to be true?
I don't know. I look at it a little differently. I'm very upset about it, so I think I agree with you there. I've never thought it was really about Trump. I don't know that anyone's put forth credible allegations about his personal behavior. Maybe I missed it, but Ghislaine Mack, whatever. We can get into it. I mean, I know actually a lot about the case. What I'm really bothered by is I think it's both inherently important. I think there were a lot of people involved in this whose names who have a great deal of power in American society and internationally, including a former prime minister of another country who's been accused of rape, credibly. Bill Gates. I mean, there's a lot of people, right? And I think it's fair to know what your leaders are doing. And I don't think there should be, I hate cover-ups. I think, as I noted before, the deep state is 100% real. The Epstein story intersects with that in really profound ways. And if you don't tell the truth about it, most people, probably you, reach the conclusion the system is so rigged, no one will ever tell me the truth about anything. That's how I personally feel about it.
Do you believe that the Epstein files will ever get released in entirety?
I don't want to be boring about this, but I did a long, 3-hour show on this last month, which I think I think it's all true, what I said and what my guest said, but I don't think there are, strictly speaking, Epstein files, because, this is real, and I don't want to be boring, but the original in Palm Beach County in 2005, 6, 20 years ago, basically was written to protect Epstein. And so it was you can search his house, but only the third drawer from the left in his dresser, but don't look at any other drawers. So actually, the government gathered a shockingly small amount of evidence in the original case, which is insane to me. So how did that happen? I want to know that. I want to know how justice was perverted consistently along the line, okay, A. B, I want to know who murdered him in federal lockup in Manhattan. He was murdered. He did not kill himself. And I'm not guessing. I'm not playing the meme game like Epstein didn't kill himself. Epstein actually didn't kill himself. He was murdered. But think about that for a second. Who could get into the most secure part of the federal detention center in downtown Manhattan? Who could do that? And the former Attorney General of the United States, Bill Barr, covered up his murder. And we know that for a fact because he said in his memoir, and at the time, his first instruction to his staff at DOJ when Epstein was found dead in his cell, we can't let anyone think this was a murder. Well, you haven't even done the investigation yet. So rule one in law enforcement is, and in journalism, by the way, we don't draw conclusions before the evidence arrives because we could be wrong. Also science, like any honest undertaking requires you to find out what happened before you make a judgment about it. And he didn't. And he was part of the cover-up. And he's threatened to sue me for saying that. Go ahead. So there are a lot of things about Epstein that I think are vital for the public to know. They're not revealing them. It enrages me. I think it hurts them. It hurts the country. I don't understand it. And I think Trump thinks that it's part of a plot like Russiagate against him. I don't think that's true. I think we need disclosure about a lot of things, beginning with Epstein. Because who's going to trust the government at this point?
I mean, have you seen the birthday letter that Epstein had written Donald Trump?
Yeah, he was friends with Epstein.
Yeah, well, I'm saying is that a majority of the American populace believes that Trump is a pedophile.
Okay, well...
And
okay, I mean, I haven't seen polling on that question, but I would say...
a good chunk at the minimum.
Okay. I can't speak for anyone other than myself, but I would say, as always, disclosure is the only way to restore trust. I mean, they haven't released all the JFK assassination files, okay? Still. Despite the fact the president issued an order on January 23rd, the day after his inauguration, saying all of them were beat, they haven't been released. So, what is that? And I've got some theories, but I don't have a hard and fast answer because I haven't seen the documents that haven't been released by CIA. But it just makes everybody crazy. And you often hear this criticism of like, there are all these conspiracies on the internet. Well, how do you think they got there? Because they're occupying a vacuum that our leaders, using our money and our government, which we own as citizens of the United States, they're using that to hide information from us solely to protect themselves and their friends. I just think a system like that can't continue. I really don't. I just think it's you're priming the pump for some kind of badness if you keep doing that, and they are continuing to do it.
I agree, and I think that files also need to be released until people like me can feel more at ease with our current administration. Thanks for
And every administration. I agree.
Hi, Mr. Carlson. My name is Joe. I've been a big fan of your show my whole life. I used to watch it with my father on TV, and he's watching me right now, and so
thanks.
This is really a privilege. I'd like to say I agree with you on most things, foreign policy, domestic policy. However, there's one thing that I do not agree with you with.
Weed?
I do not smoke.
I hate weed. Everyone loves weed. All the cool kids love weed. I hate weed. So okay, but I'm sorry, I won't guess. But tell me what you disagree with me on.
I do disagree with you on abortion.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
And I like to call myself a conservative, and sometimes it feels like a cop-out to say that I'm a pro-choice conservative. I'm a man of faith. I do go to church, and I believe in Jesus Christ, that he's my Lord and Savior. But I think that when I act as a conscientious actor the same way Henry David Thoreau did with not wanting to support a government that supports slavery, and the same way Socrates did when he was in prison, I just don't think I can align the belief that abortion should be banned with the idea that the government should be limited and not infringing within people.
I get what you're saying, and I once had that belief. I mean, I felt the way that you feel. Like, I don't want government in the bedroom. I didn't realize that government would arrive in the bedroom and they'd be telling my kids about gays in 5th grade or whatever. Like, government's definitely in our bedroom. Promoting the sexual practices it approves of and discouraging the others. So government's in our bedroom. Thanks, Human Rights Campaign and HHS. But I get what you're saying. So I would just start here. Does government have the right to prevent people from killing each other?
I mean, yes, to a certain extent. I think that...
What would be that extent?
I mean,
when can government not tell people not to kill each other?
In cases of self-defense. If someone breaks into
That
my
is
property,
correct. That is correct.
if someone breaks into my property and I act in retaliation, I don't think the government should have the right to say you can't do that.
I think you're absolutely right. Of course, I vehemently agree with you. I think the distinction would be the child didn't actually break in. The child didn't do anything wrong. And to the young lady who was asking me about the theocracy that she worries is coming. Not soon enough, sad. But, no, totally kidding, sort of. But, one of the bases of the Western justice I was just extolling is that you can't punish the innocent. That's why we don't believe in collective punishment. You only punish people who've done something wrong. And the worst thing that you can ever do in life and in the justice system is punish the innocent. What the famous, was it Hugo Black or some famous Supreme Court justice said, rather have 10 men go free than one innocent man be punished. And I think most decent people feel that way. I certainly do. And that stems from a Christian understanding of justice. So it's hard to identify the crime the child has committed. Now, you could, I think we can conclusively say the child hasn't actually done anything wrong.
Yes, I
So
agree.
you can't kill him. And you could make the argument, and people have, that for the first, in fact, Roe made this argument, that the first 3 months it's not a human. I think it's kind of a weird argument. I don't agree with it, but at least it's an argument. But if the child can live outside the womb, you're killing an innocent person. That's not a close call at all. And people who call themselves pro-choice don't seem that eager to ban that. Like, that should be illegal tomorrow. If a child can live outside the womb, I don't care if you think the child is not up to your specifications, like the kind of child you want. Oh, the child has spina bifida or whatever. It's sad, okay, but it's not a crime. Having a birth defect is not a crime, is it? I know Hitler thought it was a crime. I don't think it was a crime. So you can't kill people who haven't done anything wrong. And I just think your position would have more credibility. I'm not attacking you at all. Again, I had your position, so I understand that people of good faith can arrive at the place you have. But I think it would be good to think that through, because there are hundreds of thousands of post-viability children murdered every year in abortion, and can we allow that? How can we allow that? I can't hear what you're saying, but... Okay, well, I don't know. If 1% of the country were in slavery, you'd be like, it's just 1%. If something's bad, it's bad. And the government should be against it. What's the point of a government? The point of a government is to maintain as they used to say, the monopoly on violence. It's the people we elect to maintain order and carry out the imposition of what we think is justice. And if we agree that you can't kill innocent people, and I hope that all of us do, then the government should prevent it. What's the point of having a government otherwise? It's not just to secure copyright and make it, easy for the hedge funds to operate. There has to be something else. And that would be a good place to start.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Carlson. I will be reflecting tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, Tucker. Thank you for being here. I just wanted to ask you about the redistricting push that's been in Indiana. I'm born and raised in Indiana, so this is an issue that I feel like affects me a lot. Currently, Trump is trying to get a lot of his Republican allies in the states to redistrict some of these states in order to get more seats for the Republicans in the House. Indiana has a 7-2 split, so 7 Republicans, 2 Democrats in the U.S. House of Representatives. We vote for Republicans it's like a 60-40 split in the state, but there's a lot of Republicans now in the state house that are wanting to make that split 8-1 or 9-0 and basically kind of take away some of those Democratic voices. So my question for you is, do you support Trump's push for redistricting to try and lock in kind of the Republican, power in the House? And then also, do you think that there's any other rationale that he might have for that other than for a partisan purpose?
Well, unfortunately, redistricting is always partisan, and it's always so ugly. And it was designed that way. It comes after the census, and there's a lot that hangs on it.
Well, but it's not coming after the census this time. It's coming mid-cycle.
Right? No, I get it. I understand. I totally understand that. But I'm just saying this is a perennial thing, and the closer you look at it, the more kind of mercenary and detached from principle it is. So I would, and I know nothing about the Indiana congressional apportionment. I knew one of your congressmen really well, and he's a wonderful guy, now a senator. Very good guy, Jim Banks, who went here, I think. So I can't comment on that because I don't know anything about it. But let me just...
Texas was in the news a lot, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure you heard about that.
So here's what I object to. I'll just say what I do think about it, and you can assess that as you will. But I think that apportioning congressional districts by race is like the most, which is really the core issue here, is the most divisive thing you can do. And I think apportioning anything by race is totally immoral because, again, it's collectivist in a way that violates the American sense of justice. And so any whites, blacks, trans, whatever, that way of thinking is the road to genocide. I've always thought that. I continue to think it. And it's reflected in so many ways in our society, but particularly in congressional district apportionment, where there are so many districts in this country that were drawn to make certain that a person of a certain race holds the seat in the House. And by court order, by the way. This is not like something that was just dreamed up by do-gooders. Like, this is mandated by federal courts. And I think if you want to have like a race war at some point, keep doing stuff like that. Like, that is so bad. It just shouldn't be that way. The idea, first of all, because everything about it is poison, but the core idea is the most poisonous of all, and that is that only someone who looks like you can adequately represent you. It's completely detached from ideas. It's only about race. It's only about ethnicity. It's skin color. And that right there is a rejection of the core American idea, which is which is on the mall. Everyone ignores it. The MLK, who didn't believe it himself, but whatever. The idea is still worth upholding, which is we're going to be judged by the content of our character, not the color of our skin. That is worth saving. Okay? In fact, not only is it worth saving, that was the whole idea of the country. And so you can't, and by the way, you see this up and down our corrupt systems, not just in the federal courts, not just with congressional apportionment, but at medical schools. Well, I mean, certain populations have to have physicians that look like them. Why? Why?
I feel like we're getting off the topic.
No, this is the topic.
No, I'm trying to talk to you about redistricting, and
well, this is the core of redistricting. All these congressional districts are driven.
But not all of them are driven by race. Like, okay, Indiana, think about this: 60-40.
Right.
Do you think that it would be fair for Republicans to control approximately 60% of the districts in Indiana and Democrats to control 40%? Would that be fair?
You mean, do I think it's fair? Again, I'm taking a pass on the specifics of Indiana because you're clearly outgunning me with local knowledge. But and I don't want to. But do I think it's fair for congressional districts
to mirror like the vote totals, like of the state, basically?
Yes, I do.
Okay, well, that's not happening.
Okay.
Right now, and
Trump is then that sounds unfair.
Right, and Trump is trying to make it even more unfair. He's trying to move us from 78% Republican districts in Indiana to like 89% or even 100%. To me, that's not fair.
Yeah, well, I mean, so Indiana, and I love Indiana, but Indiana is not like a population center in the United States. Probably should be. California and Texas are. And he's making the same argument that you're making in the big states.
But Texas is already 25-13, and they do not vote for Republicans in that sort of proportion.
What is California?
California is the same way. I agree. It's a problem on both sides. But to say that
right.
Texas is not a problem, then that's not true.
So I guess I would say I think I agree with you that the congressional districts should roughly, to the extent you can, I've actually seen the process take place, like people trying to figure out what the boundaries of a congressional district should be. You should talk to a member of Congress about this. It's actually pretty interesting. You're clearly into this. It's super freaking complicated, but less complicated now because of the data revolution. Like, we know a lot more about who lives where and what they do. Not just who they vote for, but their buying habits. Like, you can get very precise about where the liberals and the conservatives live now, like way more than ever before. So I think it's a bigger problem. And in general, yes, I think it should reflect the people who live in the state.
Great, I agree. Well, I want to let other people talk.
Let me say the last thing. The idea that illegal aliens are counted in the census is like, let's have a revolution to stop that. Like,
that would require a constitutional amendment, but yeah.
It's so outrageous. Well, what it would actually require is like, anyone who's here illegally needs to leave immediately, and I would like to see that happen soon.
All right.
Thanks.
Tucker, I appreciate it.
Good evening, sir. My name is Jacob. As someone who's going into the armed forces, I put a lot of priority on tradition and upholding American values, and more importantly, upholding our American landmarks and our traditions. Do you support Donald Trump tearing down the East Wing of the White House to build his ballroom, which has been a historic part of the White House ever since the Roosevelt administration?
Which Roosevelt? FDR?
Yes.
Well, that ended in 1945. The historic's a little strong there. I don't know. I think it's I have mixed feelings. I think that I was just there. I mean, I've been there a lot my whole life. It's not that impressive. I mean, don't mess with the West Wing. The East Wing's like kind of not impressive at all. Sorry, I was literally just there like 4 days ago. What I'm against, much more than that, is building concrete, ugly buildings. Like, I just am so offended by it. I'm so offended by the ugliness that's spreading across this country. I mean, I don't know. Look, I mean, just to answer your question I can go on forever on this specific topic, but architecture, the things we make reflect who we are, period. If you want to assess, if you're an archaeologist and you want to know what the Phoenicians were like, you look at what they made. And I hope we're never judged by that standard, because we're not creating beauty now. And that flows from your collective soul. Like, if you have beautiful intent and beautiful thought and beautiful aspirations, you create beautiful things. At its height, the British Empire created the most finely crafted, beautiful, durable things ever made. And now they don't create anything other than finance and bad healthcare. So it really is a measure of your civilization. And I'm very upset about architecture, about the state of our architecture. I do think that people who build dollar stores, I'm not saying should be in prison, but I think that I'm open to that, obviously, but I do think that they should face a serious social sanction. Like, you shouldn't sit next to them in a public place. So as for the East Wing, I don't really know. I mean, I think you have to make sure that it's restrained and in good taste, and I feel strongly about that. I was just in the Rose Garden. I was pretty skeptical about his plans for do you know what the Rose Garden is? It's right off the Oval Office. It's very famous, right, in press conferences. And Trump's position was, well, when it's wet, people's shoes sink into the mud, and so I'm going to replace it with tile. I mean, I live in like a very old house. I don't like anything new. I'm really uptight about design questions. I was kind of skeptical. I was just there. It looked fine. It looked pretty good, actually. So I hope whatever he's doing in the East Wing is good. I'm sorry to give you such a soft answer, but if you're worried about the encroachment of ugliness in public spaces, man, you've got a lot to worry about. You know, anyone who's building a steel reinforced concrete building should have to answer the question, why? Anyone who's putting drywall on a visible surface or drop lighting, what? Anyone who's putting industrial carpet on the ground, what about stone? None of this is going to be here in 100 years. Why? Because the rebar rusts, and there's no way to stop it from rusting. Modern architecture is designed for a very short span. You can go to the Roman Colosseum. Anything made out of stone endures. And a society that cares about its future, that reveres its past, builds out of durable building materials. And we don't. And no one says anything about it. It's like, oh, it's cheapest. I don't care what it costs. Like, no more concrete buildings. They sap the life from our country.
Thank you for your time, sir. And I want to keep this brief for everyone. So
Good. Well, thanks. I should take that advice.
Hi, I'm John. I'm an exchange student from Poland, and I wanted to ask you about your stance on Eastern NATO flank and on the issue with Ukraine war. From what I've heard from you tonight and also from your programs, what I've been watching personally, you have a very harsh stance on Ukraine president, and you're describing Zelensky as a quote-unquote dictator ruling his country, completely disregarding, I think, the martial law as it is is in place in Ukraine. But also what really bothers me is that I think so personally, that you tend to view this war as an kind of equal conflict between two sides. When we knowing the Russia from their history and seeing what they are doing there, and remembering from the history what they've been doing for 300 years, we know that they like to play the victim. They always play the victim. They always like to call themselves freedom from Kremlin war all the way to the First World War and so on and so on. And my question here is, don't you feel that it's improper to blame everything on Ukraine? Correct me if I'm wrong, obviously. And completely disregard that Russia is the aggressor in this very war.
First of all, let me say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sound like I was blaming everything on Ukraine. I think Ukraine is the victim here. NATO is the aggressor. NATO did this under the command of Joe Biden, and it's deranged. And the United States, on many levels in the foreign policy establishment, and I'm sad to say in the Pentagon, and certainly in NATO command, wants a war with Russia. So now we have one. So no, this is not a war between Ukraine and Russia. It's a war between the United States and Russia. And Western Europe is being crushed by it. Poland, which I love. I've never met a Pole I didn't like. And by the way, of course, I completely understand why you wouldn't trust the Russians, why you have historical reasons to be angry with the Russians. That's all legitimate, obviously. No one has suffered more than Poland in the last 100 years. No country. So I get it, but Poland doesn't run the world, and neither does Ukraine, and neither does Russia. The U.S. does, or did, before this war, and the United States, its leadership, not its people, wanted a war with Russia. Now, you could argue about why. I think resources have something to do with it. Just a desire for hegemony had something to do with it. The fact that Russia's like the largest white Christian country left in the world has a lot to do with it. There are lots of reasons. But they wanted a war with Russia. I have no reason to defend Russia. I just don't think that's good for the United States, and I definitely don't think it's good for Poland at all. I think you guys could really hurt yourselves dicking around. You can't beat Russia in a war. NATO's not going to save you, sorry. NATO hasn't been able to beat Russia yet. All we've done is expose the deep weakness, the actual weakness behind our threats. How does that help the United States? It doesn't. And so I'm really sad about it. And again, I just want to restate, I think Zelensky's a completely bad actor, does not have the interest of Ukraine at heart, obviously. They've been selling NATO weapons on the open market, including to terror groups. What? It's insane. Zelensky's bad, but most Ukrainians are not bad. They're great people, and they're being destroyed. Because why? Because Joe Biden and the NATO leadership wanted a war with Russia? I mean, they're pawns, okay? And so is Poland. And you have some great leaders, you have some really bad leaders, including Ann Applebaum's husband, lunatics, ideologues, who don't care what happens to Poland. All they care about is beating Putin. So.
One more question. Don't you think that actually when you have a sovereign nation like Ukraine, and let's say Ukrainian people voted for Zelensky in the first place because they were tired of the previous leadership, and I can understand why. And it's just sufficient to go to Ukraine to see why. But when it comes to the Ukraine and NATO stuff, don't you think that a sovereign nation can make a decision by its people that it wants to join NATO? And I'm not talking right now from American perspective, but just from the sovereign nation perspective, that they can basically say that, we want to be in NATO, and there shouldn't be any other country that prohibits them from doing that when they are a sovereign nation.
Ukraine's not a sovereign nation and hasn't been since at least 2014. You could argue it never has been a sovereign nation. I would like it to be a sovereign nation, but it wasn't. I mean, of course, the president was...
Why so?
Because the president was overthrown in a U.S.-backed coup in 2014 on tape. So we don't need to guess about that. I mean, you had Victoria Nuland talking about it, caught on tape. Look it up on the internet. That was a coup. They're a pawn. Most smaller countries wind up as pawns, actually, in this world. Unfortunately, I feel sorry for every one of them.
Sadly, that's true, yeah.
It is true. It's horrible. Poland is a perfect example. That's why so many Poles have died in the last 100 years, because it's caught in a flat piece of ground in Central Europe, like it's a pawn. I get it. It's sad. But it was NATO that did that. Russia doesn't want Western nuclear weapons on its western border. Okay, why would they? And we agreed not to do that. Why would we do that? Were they really planning on invading Liechtenstein? No. And yet they pushed NATO eastward and provoked this response. I'm against the response. I'm against the invasion. I'm not lauding Putin for invading Ukraine, okay? But we did that. Biden did that. And that's just a fact. And by the way, got rich doing it. It's so dark. And no one's ever been prosecuted for it. You know, meanwhile, Mike Lindell is being destroyed over saying something that some judge didn't like, but Toria Nuland walks free? Like, how does that work? It's like Epstein. It's too frustrating to watch the guilty prosper.
Yeah, it is very frustrating, but at the same time, I think we, as the free world, as you mentioned earlier, we should state who the aggressor is and actually recognize that Putin is a dictator who kills his political opponents, who kills journalists. And you know that, and you perfectly know that, and everybody knows
that. I mean,
who poisons his opponents.
Yeah, he's bad. Putin's bad. No, I get it. Okay, so I'm getting like the charge of calling someone bad, but the point is not who's bad. The point is how to fix it. And the first thing you have to recognize is you can't push NATO, which is not a defensive alliance, an aggressive expansionist alliance that bombed Serbia for no obvious reasons, that killed Gaddafi. It's like the whole thing is insane.
Kind of for obvious reasons, Serbians were killing Bosnians and Muslims in the Balkans, and I know it's a really, you should read into that really, because
I was there last week. No, whatever. We disagree. But my only point is, they wanted a war with Russia. They got one. It's not good for the United States. It's a total disaster for the Ukrainians. I feel sad about it, and having spent a lot of time in foreign countries around the world my whole life, the leader of X country is bad. Yeah, okay, I know quite a few of those. That's not really an answer to the question, which is like, what should we do? And what we should do is end this conflict immediately, because it's resulting in the deaths of innocents and weakening the United States, and has driven Russia into the arms of China, forming a bloc called BRICS, which is now bigger than the Western alliance, which is like us and a bunch of deindustrialized, sad, immigration-ravaged Western European countries. It's really depressing.
Yeah, BRICS is, I think, very dangerous. But just for the closing statement, I personally think that it's just basically a sovereign nation being invaded by Russia. And okay, NATO did a fair share of...
It wasn't a sovereign nation. We picked its leaders. It was a client state that Joe Biden and his kid were getting rich from. I mean, no, it was like, it was a creation of, look, Ukraine is always going to be a satellite either of Russia or the West. Look where it is on the map, okay? Look at its resources. It's going to be under the influence of a larger power. Unfortunately, that's the way the world works. And so it was a choice between, is it going to be a proxy of the United States or is it going to be a proxy of Russia? We made it our proxy, but it was never sovereign. Sorry.
Yeah, but Russia was one country that attacked the other country. And also, I think worth remembering is that Russia has long history of invading sovereign nations.
I get it.
Georgia,
I get it.
Poland,
you guys are all worried about Russia. I understand that.
Yeah, and I think we really, as NATO, and the values that the NATO should uphold in principles should be respected. And I just want to say,
I've got a better idea. Why doesn't Poland go to war with Russia? If you're upset about it, why don't you go defend Ukraine? Sorry to be a jerk, but why am I paying for this? This is hurting the United States. I mean, look, I've tried to be reasonable. I understand your concerns. I don't think they're frivolous, and I definitely understand your history, and I think it's all real. And I love the Poles. On the other hand, this is a regional concern. Why am I involved in this? Why do my children live under the looming threat of nuclear war to protect the sovereignty of Ukraine or save Poland? Like, I like Poland, I like Ukraine, but like, I'm an American. Not one more dollar. No. Fight the war yourself if it's so important.
Yeah, I totally get it. I'm not an American, so you know about it.
I'm not attacking you at all. I mean, I go do your cavalry charges or whatever, but...
Yeah. Probably will.
You've done it before.
Proudly Catholic, yeah. Nevertheless, I just think that when we are in an alliance and we agree on certain things, we should stick together in tough times.
Yeah, how's that working? It's not.
Pretty badly because of the current administration, but you know it.
You were not winning before, and the poor Poles have been. They're so easily roused. I get it. They're such valiant, noble people, but they have a long history. No offense, of riding into doom. Because of their...
I completely agree with that, but nevertheless...
Don't do it again,
Just for the closing statement, I hope you are aware of spreading basically the Russian point of view and getting dragged in this conversation. I don't really think Americans as a leader of the free world should do that, but it's just up for...
We're paying for the war. It's our war. No mas.
You're making a buck out of it also, but like, nevertheless... Thank you very much for your time, and I let people talk also.
Hey, Tucker. So I was just told that I was the last one to speak at this event, and in the spirit of what you said and respecting Charlie Kirk, I want to turn this last question more so into a discourse rather than a debate. Yeah, bear with me, I'm just using my phone. I'm sure you've seen the AI video Trump posted recently showing himself literally dumping poop on protesters, representing the millions of real Americans, including veterans, teachers, parents exercising their rights. His team calls it satire, but I look at this and see everything converging. Everything's become ironic, so nothing can be taken seriously. Each outrage has to be more extreme than the last. We've stopped seeing these people as actual human beings. And the whole media ecosystem, including left-wing media, right-wing media, Trump, and you at times, reward it because it drives engagement. You, Tucker, have shown that you can have empathy for individuals, but here we have millions of people being depicted as being deserving to be shit on. So my question is, do you ever feel trapped in this system? Maybe you think it's corrosive, but do you think incentives make it almost impossible to do anything else? Or is there a line where even within those incentives, you'd say, this has gone too far?
Well, I'll take your question seriously. Do I feel trapped in a system? I mean, there definitely have been times in the course of my long, 30 years of doing this where I felt like I work at a network. I always made a big show internally if I'm going to say whatever I want, and if you don't like it, fire me. But when they finally did fire me, well, when I got fired for the third time, I realized that there is self-censorship that goes on. Like, there's some topics you just don't want to broach because you know that they're too hot, your bosses don't like them. And so I do think in some sense I was captive at the various channels I worked at. And I definitely went along with stuff that I feel bad about now, most significantly the Iraq War, but I'm sure many others. And so, yes, I would say now, I don't want to make it about me, but since you asked about me, I often get this like, well, you're in it for the money, or no, I'm really not actually at all. And no, I don't have $50 million, but I also have no debt, and like my kids are grown, and I'm not working for anybody. I really can say whatever I want, and I love that. I feel so blessed by that. So it's not really a calculation. The problem that I have, and I did it to the French kid, is I get mad. I get annoyed, and I get snappy and say things that are mean or cutting, or I don't take the other person seriously. That is a lifelong tick of mine. It's unattractive and immoral, and you just saw it on display. So
I think it's a dual responsibility for the speaker and the one who's asking questions to keep a level of discourse so we don't get so distracted by the quips and the snaps.
I agree. That the French kid triggered me for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. Everyone hates the French. I don't like the French. I don't hate the French. I think they're really an interesting people in a lot of ways. But anyway,
what I wanted to address is I admire that you're being honest. That
I'm trying.
Like a speaker, college student on a campus was able to trigger you, but really it's like we're all getting triggered back and forth.
But can I suggest one thing that I certainly think you can make the case, is it befitting a president to send out an AI video as the one you described, which by the way I haven't actually seen, but I believe it.
And its implications, like what?
Yeah, look, in general, I think it's bad to treat people as groups. It's bad to dehumanize them. Those are beliefs that grow from my faith, and I mean them. I've definitely done that a lot, but I'm not proud of it, and I would apologize for doing that. But I would say there is and I really mean this, there is kind of a bait and switch going on, and Trump has always been part of it, where this country, as young people especially, have these huge problems. This is part of what always made me mad about identity politics. It was always fight amongst yourselves, go and have a race war while we steal from you. And I'm very fixated on this idea of housing. Kids just can't buy houses. And I really feel, as someone who, without parental help, bought a house on a low salary at 25 for nothing, it was a crappy house, but it was a house. I was married. Like, that's literally not achievable. You could not do that now. And why can't you do that? Well, there are many reasons, but the two big ones are immigration, supply and demand.
Tucker, can I ask you...
Why are you protesting Larry Fink is my question. That's my real question. Why do you always attack the people who aren't really central to what's happening? Why does no one attack the oligarchs? I never get that.
Tucker.
Call me a left-winger. I don't like them. They're bad.
I know we've heard a lot about your favorite architectural styles and going off talking about other important issues, and I respect that. But I do have one question that I would hope...
Why don't you address that question? Like,
yeah,
you guys on the left are always like, we're fighting the man, and it's like, no, you're pissed at some talk show.
You got a big platform, a big podium. It looks fantastic. It's great. Is there anything that you could do tomorrow that would be a step towards breaking the cycle of divisive, triggering mainstream media?
Well, I like to think, and perhaps I'm flattering myself, that I do it every day. And I would guess that you've not watched anything I've done in the past couple of years. I would just imagine that.
I've watched, I learned about you from, I was watching YouTube the other day, and there's a video of you fly fishing in the Central Park from 2013.
Okay.
And I thought that was pretty nice.
Okay, but I'm just saying, leaving aside my personal qualities, some of which are prima facie unattractive, okay, I would never deny that. My imperfections are obvious and on display. But, I mean, I really have spent the last 2 years trying to the extent that, very limited extent I can, avert some new war. I'm really opposed to that. And I actually thought to myself, I got fired, I don't really, I don't know if I want to keep working. I'm going to keep working because I should. And what am I going to do with my life? Like when you get fired, you do have this cool opportunity to think, like, what should I be doing with my life? And I thought, I really, having covered the war on terror from the very first day, I don't want more of that. And I'm going to devote all my energy to stopping, to the extent that I can. I'm not in charge of anything, but I'm going to make the case against that every freaking day. And I have. And I don't know. I mean, I'm against the divisiveness. I totally agree with you, but I would also say that a lot of the divisiveness is designed to keep people from understanding that they have more in common than they think.
I 100% agree, and the fact that you
and the race stuff especially,
and that you recognize that, I believe that you could be in a position.
Well, I think I am, and I think I'm doing that. And maybe again, I'm flattering myself. We don't see ourselves clearly. And it's totally possible that I'm like working toward evil and don't know it, but I don't believe that. I actually think I'm doing the right thing. I say prayers about it every day. And I do know from working for 20 years, having people call me a racist, and I always say, if I was a racist, I would just admit it. And I would. I'm kind of a sexist. I'm not a racist. Just kidding. But I was like, why are they calling me a racist? You could say, you've gained 20 pounds, or you're obnoxious, or you're kind of nasty. All true. Why are they calling me a racist? I never got that. And then I realized they were calling me a racist so no one could hear on the other side that I actually agree on some issues. And they didn't want anyone to hear that. And the issues specifically that I agree on is I think the tax code is totally immoral. I don't think that people should be paying half the taxes for investing that other people are paying for working. I hate that because it's not twice as virtuous to invest as it is to work for a wage. Sorry, I think that's wrong. Is that a liberal position? I have no idea, but no liberal's ever heard that because, like, he's a racist, shut up. Or he's divisive, or he fly fishes in Central Park, or who gives a shit? Like, actually, all of us are being played by the most powerful people in the world. That's my view. And by the way, they're not even politicians. My read from a lot of time, in this world is that politicians have a lot less power than we imagine they do. And I think people are starting to figure that out. Like, they take orders. Almost all of them take orders. So the question is, who are they taking orders from? And who made those people God? Like, I didn't vote for them. And why is nobody protesting them? It's always some poor ICE agent who's just doing his job, or some cop. The problem is white cops. What? The guys who make $50,000 a year? And the left had, like, literally nation-stopping violent protests for an entire summer because cops were white. It's like, I don't think we're going after the real criminals here. And the real criminals are people who are turning single-family homes into rental properties. They are people who open the borders and made it too crowded for your kids to have a job or buy a house. Like, why those people get completely escape any scrutiny, much less punishment? And I would say to the left, to liberals like you, harness the good energy that you have, like your desire for social justice, which I share completely. And no, it's not related to race, it's related to human rights inherent in all of us. And pursue those. And pursue the people who are trying to limit them. Anyone trying to limit free speech should be your enemy, but they're not. You're on that side. Like, how can you fall for this? Right? Are you hearing me? Do you feel me? Can I get an amen?
Thank you, Tucker. A lot of good things. Do you invest in Bitcoin? Do you think it's like a viable asset to invest in?
Oh man, I don't want to make more enemies. I mean, you want it's my last answer, but you want the actual answer?
Yeah, sure.
And here's why. I spoke at the Bitcoin conference actually last year. I've spoken at a couple of Bitcoin conferences. I love the idea of Bitcoin because I love the idea of financial autonomy. I don't want what I buy or sell to be tracked. I don't want my money to be tracked. It's nobody's business. I pay my taxes. I've never cheated on my taxes. I've been very tempted, but I never have one time cheated on my taxes. And once the money's mine, like, I can do what I want with it. And if you find me breaking the law, arrest me. But if you don't, it's none of your beeswax, as the kids say. So I love the idea of the blockchain. I knew some of the people involved in that whole thing. And I still believe in that promise, okay? Roger Ver, for example. I don't know how closely do you follow this, but like, there are people who still believe in that. But it turns out that it is not, to this point, been, I hope it will be, a way to conduct financial transactions privately at all. And that really freaks me out. I'm really afraid of a digital currency because that is totalitarian control. If you can punish people, if you can zero out their bank account and keep them from eating, you will have total obedience. Like, that's totalitarian. And I know that young people love crypto because they've been completely screwed in the job market and there are no financial opportunities for most of them. And they know they're staring down a life of, if not poverty, certainly a step down from the way they grew up, most young people. And so Bitcoin for them, crypto in general for them, is a promise of like, how can I make it in this world? Like, I would like to have a normal life. How can I do that? And crypto is a way they think that they can. And I'm praying for them. I hope that's true. But I fear that it will become, like so many other things in our country, a scam of sorts run by a coalition of the financial beneficiaries, like a few people who are getting all the winnings, and the politicians they control who use it to further their control of American society. I'm really worried about that. And so I'll just be totally bummed with you. I'm a gold buyer, and I've been vindicated big time in that. And everyone's like, oh, you're crazy buying gold. Yeah. You know, it was good enough for the Phoenicians. It's good enough for me. And I, in general, don't get involved in anything I don't understand. I think that's a really good rule. There's some things I think I understand. Turns out I didn't understand them. But in general, I try to limit myself to things I understand. And nobody can explain to me who Satoshi was, the creator of Bitcoin, this mysterious guy who apparently died, but nobody knows who he was. You know, I grew up in D.C. primarily, in a government family, so CIA. That's my guess. Can't prove it. But like, you're telling me to invest in something whose founder is like mysterious and has billions of dollars of unused Bitcoin. Like, what is that? And no one can answer the question, including some of the biggest holders of Bitcoin in the world. Do I know personally? They're like, oh, it doesn't matter. It matters to me. Right?
Thank you, Tucker.
Thank you.
Clock's ticking.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. And let me just say, to the French kid, sorry I was snappy with you, but you really are the most annoying person I've ever met. And I mean that. Thank you.
This we know, the cornerstone is Christ alone.